Hi, welcome to the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. My name is Zach Randalls Friedman, and today I am going to talk about my coming out story. So, every person that is gay, lesbian, transgender has a coming out story. Most of the time, hopefully, they get to pick when their coming out story happens. For me, I mostly got to choose. However, my mother did ask, and I'll tell you all about that. I'll start at the beginning where I was in junior high and high school and thought about sexuality then. That's whenever you're going through puberty and you're starting to think about things. And I remember looking at the J.C. Penney's and Sears catalogs of the guys wearing those wraparound robes and thinking, oh, that looks really, nice. But no, I'm a straight guy. I'm a straight kid. So why would I be looking at this? And I thought it in my head a lot and did not ever really think that I was gay, and because that wasn't the societal norms. So as going through and growing up, there were people that would ask my friends in high school, "Is Zach gay? I think he's gay." And my friends like Mandy and Jennifer, and people would say, "No, no, he's not gay." And they never suspected really because I told them no. I had girlfriends growing up throughout junior high and high school. And it wasn't until I was out of high school and college that I really started trying to think more about really what am I? I knew I did have sexual relations with women, and I did explore that, but it something just wasn't there for me. And so whenever I was, I guess, I was 20 years old and I was in college. I was working at a part-time job at Home Depot, which there's so many gay people that work there. And you would think it's such a butch, manly place to work, but half the people that work there were gay. And I was working there. And then one night after work, I decided I was going to go to this club or this bar that was in South Miami that I heard about. The name of the club was called Ozone. And so I went to this club bar by myself. I wasn't even 21. They let me in, I guess, because they thought, oh, look at this cute little twink. Let's let him in. And they let me in. And I ended up meeting a guy that night. And he was an older guy, not too much older, but he was probably in his 30s and I was 20. So that felt like he was ancient to me at the time. And I ended up making out with this guy out front of the bar and club. And I said, oh, what do you do for a living? Like, what's your job? And he goes, oh, I work at Florida Power and Light. And my mouth dropped because that's where my father worked. And I immediately said I had to go. I was scared that my father was going to find out. This guy probably didn't even know my dad or had anything to do with him because he worked up in the corporate headquarters for Florida Power and Light in Miami, and my dad did not work in that location. So there was no chance that they would ever run into each other. And I don't think this guy was looking to out me anyway. So I left my car, thought I would never go back to this place again and never explore. And I would just stick to trying to be with women and leading a straight life, is what I thought. But my curiosity got me again couple of weeks later, and I decided, let me try to go again. So I went in my car and drove up to this bar again, Ozone, and walked in. And who do I see? I see a guy named Alex that I worked with at Home Depot. And he's like, I knew it. I knew I would see you here one day. And I'm like, what? You can't tell anybody? And he's like, tell anybody. What are you talking about? And he was obviously much more comfortable. He had a whole group of gay friends. And me and Alex became very close. And he was like my new best friend because we would go out and explore, and we ended up going to this bar club and exploring other ones in the area. We were going 5 nights a week at that point. And then I ended up meeting my friend Tony, who if you listen to a previous episode, I met him at this bar. as well. And him and I became best friends, and we're now, 30 years plus, and we're still in contact and still really good friends. But Tony introduced me to South Beach, which was a whole nother gay exploration compared to South Miami clubs. South Beach was still a little gritty in the early 90s. And you had people, celebrities and models exploring it. It was just a completely, completely different way of life in South Beach compared to South Miami. So once Tony introduced me to South Beach, I said, "This is where we're going. We're never going back to South Miami again." And we ended up really having a great time and meeting a lot of people and knew all the bartenders eventually and the doormen. And then I started changing the way that I was dressing. I was fitting more into the South Beach culture. And what that meant is I was becoming a little club kid. We were going to clubs and staying out to 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and meeting people. And just, we would see celebrities out, and I'd seen Madonna out. And I mean, just that's just one of the A-list stars, but we would see a different star or a different model or somebody famous, every other weekend you would see, because South Beach was the place to be. Uh, I went through this phase of going out literally 6 to 7 nights a week, and we made so many friends in South Beach. And I'll do an episode about that in the future with my old roommate Lise, who I lived with, and we have lots of great stories to tell about that. But back to my coming out story, I ended up um, getting a job at Florida Power and Light. It was a part-time job that my father got me at the call center. So if you're calling to connect, disconnect, or transfer your service, he got me a job there. It was paying a lot more money than Home Depot was, and it was close to my school, and it was kind of closer to South Beach, which is where I ended up moving to. And I was when he got me the job there. A typical outfit for me going out was blue vinyl pants, platform shoes, a very tight shirt that was probably two sizes too small because I was very, very skinny. I had platinum blonde hair. I had three earrings in each ear, and I had a belly button ring. So I was definitely the club kid. Every night that I went out with my friend Tony and also my friend Gary, who I met later on in South Beach, we would have a theme. Sometimes it was like, oh, let's wear all black and white, or let's wear latex, or let's wear leather, or whatever it was. But we had a different theme every night because we were the typical kind of club kids. And we thought we were so cute and irresistible to everybody. And I'm sure we were really, really annoying, because now when I see that out, these people, I think they're super annoying. But that was us back then. We had a good time, and we didn't care, and we were young, and we thought we were invincible, and the world was ours for the taking. But whenever I got this job at my father's company, I said, I gotta scale it back a bit. Obviously I wasn't wearing blue vinyl pants to Home Depot, but I was living with my parents again at this point, and because I had some issues with my roommate and moved back in with my parents for a short time, and I'm like, I need to scale back my look. So I went and cut my platinum blonde hair really short to get it back to the light brown color it was, but it was very short. I took out a couple of the earrings and decided I need to go get a pair of khakis and a dress shirt for this new job. And so I went out and went shopping and got some business casual dress clothes that you would wear in the 90s. And that's what I did. And I thought I was, going to fit right into that culture. I definitely looked more like a normal person, that instead of looking like a club kid or a gay twink is what I was called. Um, and at that point, whenever I did this transformation, is when my mother and not my mother, my father actually thought to ask my mother if she thought I was gay. So the whole time when I was wearing platform shoes, even dressing in drag for Halloween, wearing black vinyl pants, wearing these oversized pants with my underwear showing and these see-through shirts. My parents never thought then that I was gay. But whenever I decided to look more like a typical straight 20 something, that's whenever something clicked with him. Whenever I started to look more normal, like society would think that you would look. So the way it happened is that my mother had met some of my friends, and she asked the question a couple of times. Oh, does Gary like girls or boys? I said, Mom, it doesn't matter. I don't know what he likes. We haven't talked about that. So obviously, I knew Gary was fully gay, and because he was going out with me every night. And my mother comes. I was sitting on the back patio by my mom's pool. I was talking to Gary on the phone. My mother comes back there, interrupts me, and says, I need to ask you a question. And I knew exactly what she was going to ask me. And I said, Mom, don't ask me a question you don't want the answer to. She goes, Your father told me I need to ask you this question. I said, Do not ask me anything that you don't want to know. And she says, I have to ask you, are you gay? And I said, Yes, I'm gay. And she goes, Is Gary and Tony gay? I said, They're gay too. And her first question was, Do you want to be a woman? I said, Mom, that is not what being gay means. And she says, Do you think you have AIDS? I said, Mom, I don't have AIDS. I don't have HIV. I don't have any disease, any sexually transmitted diseases. I am very careful. I don't want to be a woman. I want to stay a man. I just happen to like men. And she goes, Is this a phase? And she was crying. She was upset that she wasn't going to get grandchildren. And so then she told my father. She had to tell my father that night. And my father, she told him, my father got in the car and drove and didn't come back for quite a while, for several hours. And he told my mom that he didn't want to speak to me. And he was embarrassed and he didn't want anybody at his job to know that he had a gay son. And for some reason, my father thought I was a different person. I'll say that me and my father growing up, I wasn't super close with him growing up. We were very, very opposite of things. My father wanted to teach me how to change the brakes in my first car. And I'm like, why would I ever? I'm never going to do this when I grow up. I am going to have somebody do this for me. So, but he wanted to show me these type of things. This is what a man does. You change your own brakes. You change your own oil. I had no desire to do any of that. So we had very opposite ways of thinking. But he was a good father. He always uh, provided for the family really well. He always showed love, and just he was just an amazing father. So this time, I didn't really think he was so amazing because he wasn't speaking to me. And again, I was living with my parents for a while after moving back from South Beach, and we were living in this same house, not speaking to each other for a full 6 months. It was very uncomfortable. Whenever I'd go into the kitchen, my father would be in the living room and he could see me and wouldn't even look at me. I wasn't speaking to him. He wasn't speaking to me. I wasn't sure if I was going to get kicked out. I didn't think that my parents would do that. I didn't think my mother would let my father kick me out. And luckily, it never came to that. But 6 months later, it was around Christmas time, and I asked my mother, What do I do about Christmas? Do I need to go away somewhere? Do I get anybody any presents this year? Am I included in Christmas this year? Like, what's happening? And she says, You don't have to go anywhere. Don't get your father a present, but you should come to Christmas. Let me think about it and figure it out. And again, my mother accepted me being gay. She swears to this day she never knew, and she was shocked. And she started telling some of her friends, and they're like, How could you not know? We've all known. She just said she never knew. And then she told my father, What do you want Zach to do about Christmas? And my father came home from work that day. He walked in the front door right when I was walking to the kitchen, and he came up and gave me the biggest hug. My father was not a crier. He was, a manly man and didn't show feelings like that. But my father cried and he said, You are still my son. I love you no matter what. It's okay. And let's make this work. And from that point on, I had a whole new outlook and respect for my father. I have to say, me and my father became so close after that moment. That moment just brought us together. He didn't care anything about who I was. He knew that I was his son, and I really had the best of the best of fathers. I couldn't have asked for anyone better. And he he wanted to learn about what I was going through. He eventually, when I moved to New York, he wanted me to be safe. He wanted me to make sure that, I was practicing safe sex. We didn't have to have the sex talk, but there was times that he wanted to make sure I understood about HIV and AIDS and other diseases. And he didn't really have the birds and the bees talk with me, but in his own way, just wanted me to make sure that I was safe. He also wanted to make sure I was safe from people that were homophobic. And he knew South Beach was a pretty safe place to go for people that were gay, but he still wanted me to be careful. And he never really talked about telling his friends at first. I think he was not going out and advertising it to people. But after a few years, I moved to New York, and him and my mother came up, and they met Andrew in their first trip up. We went out to dinner, and they loved Andrew. They loved Andrew as much as they loved me. And I think sometimes even they loved him more because Andrew can eat and eat and eat. And my father loved to take somebody out that can eat, and Andrew could out eat everybody at the table and eat everybody's leftovers. So my dad really appreciated that. And they loved Andrew, and they loved us together, and they loved that I found somebody that loved me. And my mother is put Andrew in the will. Even if something happens to me, he's still in my mother's will. That's how much they think of him as a son of theirs. And my father, when we bought our house in Miami, me and Andrew, my father came up and he helped us with redoing our kitchen, and just helped us with doing things around the house. And he was going to sand our floors, and he wanted to make sure Andrew was included in everything. We would go on vacations together, and Andrew, we had to make sure that Andrew was coming with us. So Andrew was part of the family. My dad 110% accepted me being gay. Didn't care about it. Eventually he started telling his friends that he has a gay son. He was not embarrassed about it any longer. He realized I was the same person, and that I just happened to be born gay. He realized it wasn't anything that I chose. And just one more thing about my father. My father grew up with my grandfather, who was very Southern Baptist and religious. And so religious and Southern Baptist that if my father couldn't go to his prom, they couldn't play cards, there was no gambling, there was nothing like that. That was all horrible, and the devil was making you do that. So my father grew up in a household that was not accepting. Uh, if it didn't fit into the Southern Baptist Christian religion, my father grew up with that mindset, and I was lucky enough that that didn't stay with him after I came out to him, and that he ended up understanding, like, this is you're born gay, you're not choosing this. And one of the things I said to him, at what point did you choose to be straight? And he's like, I didn't. I'm like, exactly, I never chose to be gay. I said I fought it for years, and I just didn't think I was, and then I realized this is who I am, and I have to accept it. I then moved on, and we moved from New York, and me and Andrew, like I said, we were in Miami, we bought this house, and I always thought my brother was gay. And I would tell my mom, I'm pretty sure he's gay. And she's like, I don't know. He would have said something like, you came out to us. And I figured he would have told us at this point. I'm like, Mom, he's gay, I'm telling you. But my brother was staying in the closet. Even though I did all the work for him, he was still staying in the closet. So my brother came back. He was living with my parents. He came back home one night after going out, and I guess had too much to drink. And it was early in the morning, 5 or 6 in the morning, and my dad called him out on something, and my brother said, I'm gay. And he was crying and upset, and he decided to come out of the closet. So that morning was a Saturday morning, about 8 in the morning. My father calls me and says, Zachary, we need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he says, "Your brother needs to tell you something." I'm like, okay. And he gets on the phone. My brother goes, he's crying hysterically, and he says, "I'm gay." I'm like, "Okay, great." And I'm like, "I've known Josh, I know you're gay. We've all known you're gay, and it's fine." I said, "I did all the work for you getting mom and dad to accept a gay person, so you're welcome." And I'm glad he came out and felt good about coming out. And then, like I said, everybody has to come out at their own time. I'll say that once you do tell someone you're gay, so once I started telling, before I even told my parents, I had friends that I really wanted to tell very badly because I was living a double life. I was going out to South Beach and going out 7 nights a week, and I had friends that I've known for since high school or junior high that I was still friends with, and I wasn't hanging out with them as much. And my friend Jen, who you heard in my third podcast when we talked about unfriending friends. I finally ended up telling her when she came home from college from University of Florida, and I told her, I said, "Listen, I got to tell you something. Uh, this girlfriend, Tammy, I told you about, her name isn't really Tammy. His name is Ronnie." And she's like, "What?" And said she never knew, never expected me to come out as gay. And when she told her mom and dad, I guess week later, they were like, "Yeah, we've known Jen. We've known Zach was gay all these years." And then after I told Jen, it was kind of a domino effect where I ended up telling my friend Gina, I ended up telling my friend Sarah, and then I feel like I had to tell all my friends. And not one of my friends stopped being my friend. I got no weird reactions from anyone. Some people said they've known the whole time. Other people were surprised and shocked. I'm thinking, how could they be surprised and shocked? But they said they were. And I have still the same friends that I had back then before coming out. So I felt very lucky. But I had one more person that I needed to tell that I was gay, and that was my ex-girlfriend Lise. I was dating this guy Ronnie for 6 months or so, and I called Lise one night and I said, "Lise, I'm in South Beach. Come and meet me at this club and let's go out." And it was just a spontaneous spur of the moment thing. So Lise comes up, drives to South Beach, and she meets me at this club called Kremlin or Score. I don't know which one it was. It might have been Kremlin at the time, and it was a club that was on Lincoln Road in South Beach. And her and I walked in, and about 10 people before we even got to the bar came up to me, gave me a hug, and said hello. And it was a gay bar, and all these guys were gay. Her and I were dancing, and it was her first time really going to a gay bar, and everybody was friendly, and we had the best time. And we went out to my car afterwards, and it was probably 3 or 4 in the morning at that point. And I said, "Lise, I need to tell you something." And she said, "What?" And she goes, "That was so fun. How did you know all those people?" I said, "Well, let me tell you how." I said, "You remember Tammy, that my girlfriend that I told you I had?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, let me show you a picture." And I pulled out of my back seat a picture of Ronnie. And she was just very happy for me. She was happy that I came out, and her and I became even more close than we already were. Um, we both had feelings for each other as boyfriend and girlfriend, in the previous years before that, but we realized that that wasn't for us and we were just friends. And we ended up being roommates together, and she was a main character in my life in living in South Beach. She was with us everywhere we went, and she was, getting in with us and going to all the gay bars with us and knew everybody on South Beach just like we did. And I could go on for years about stories about how much fun we had together. She was an awesome person to hang out with. She was fun. All my friends loved her. All my gay friends loved her. And we met so many people on South Beach. And that's my coming out story. And I hope that if anybody is out there listening and you haven't come out, and it's not an easy thing to do, but once you do it, and you find out who your true friends and family are, it's such a relief. And you'll feel like you're living your authentic self and you're living your authentic life. So don't be scared about it. Not everybody's accepting about it, and that's okay. But it's your life, and just remember that this is how you were born and you can't do anything to change it. So hope you enjoyed my coming out story. Listen to all my future podcasts by subscribing to Everything and Everything and a Bit Gay podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Shoot me an email at zach@everythingandanythingpodcast.com, or you can look me up on Instagram at TheRealZachRE and send me a DM. I'll definitely get back to you. Thanks so much for listening, and talk to you next week.